Now, I think the really cool thing about Mountain is it's always very clever marketing campaigns, and I would just love to start by hearing your overall philosophy, right? Like, how do you approach when you're doing these different marketing campaigns, especially in such a fragmented TV landscape right now?
Yeah, first of all, the previous panelists have the coolest job ever. Like, my God, just watching that, thinking like, that's the job everyone wants.
Making Harry Potter reality shows, yeah.
Yeah, the thing with Mountain, hopefully everybody here has probably seen some Mountain ads before. I think a lot of people are kind of familiar with Ryan Reynolds, our Chief Creative Officer. The really important thing that I preach to our team, and is something that's kind of in Mountain's DNA, is irreverence. We have a tremendous platform. I think it's great. Happy to talk about it and how great it is, but we aren't curing cancer. We're just making TV advertising really efficient, really easy to do. And to that end, we like to have fun with our advertising. Our most successful ad campaign last year was Steve-O from Jackass eating the hottest chili pepper in the world, and then proceeding to do a demo of the Mountain platform. So like, that's our philosophy towards B2B marketing, which is quite different than a lot of people. And when I look at other B2B advertisers or even people in our space, it's like, what a lot of marketers kind of lean on always with technology companies is always this whole idea of like, it's so hard, you don't understand it. We've got it all figured out, just trust us and we'll take care of it. But for us, it's just, let's have fun. Like, it's just, and Ryan's involvement certainly helps with that too, because he's just got so many great, funny ideas. And so, yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about Steve-O, is that something that Steve-O comes to you and pitches that? Like, it sounds like he does that all the time.
No, so the process of those ads kind of coming together, it's interesting. Mountain acquired Maximum Effort, which was Ryan Reynolds' creative agency, well over a year ago now. And what's always interesting to me is Maximum Effort is full of world-class creative talent. Like, it's insane how good they are. And but the way the campaigns come together is just quite, simple. It just starts with like a text exchange.
Really?
So I'll text my sort of counterpart on the brand marketing side and say, this is a business challenge that we have, or this is a big product release that we have. And over text, my counterpart is George Dewey, who is just a phenomenal advertising mind. Him and Ryan just text out an idea, and then super lean production too. So within about 3 days, we have an asset that we're running. And for us, since we are a TV advertising platform, the TV asset sort of anchors our whole marketing strategy. So we'll take that TV asset, and then we'll also kind of create variations of it and kind of market it out, and hopefully people see it. But it all comes together frighteningly fast.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have campaigns out all the time, constantly, and I mean, it sounds like it starts with text messages, right? Like, what is that like working with Ryan Reynolds over text?
It's great. I mean, the ideas are fantastic. I think there's a lesson to be learned in how we kind of put our campaigns together, which is really anyone could probably do that same sort of thing. I get, like, my marketing peers always say, like, oh, well, you have Ryan Reynolds, so like, of course your campaigns are going to do really well. But it's funny, we actually did an ad campaign poking fun at this very concept too, which you could probably YouTube and see, where a real account manager at Mountain breaks the news to Ryan that an ad that didn't feature his likeness directly performed better than one where he's in front of the camera. But I think the lesson here is that with TV going streaming, TV ad campaigns are completely different than what we've sort of have understood as marketers for so long. Our sort of understanding for TV advertising historically has always been a long lead time, huge upfront commitment to actually making the creative and getting the placement, and just like, a quarter's worth of work just to get one asset live. And now with TV advertising, at least in our world at Mountain, since it's kind of indistinguishable from running like paid social campaigns, we're from idea to upload on platform, it's like a matter of days. And so that can be kind of exciting. And we've seen some advertisers on our platform kind of embrace that and do what they have historically done with social media with TV advertising, which is really kind of topical TV advertising that acknowledges the moment that we're in. And it's just been kind of exciting to do that. And we've done that ourselves too. We've kind of created ads that sort of seize the moment, so to speak.
Now, question, because I mean, I know I have typos in my text all the time. So maybe not every text is a winner, but can you talk about maybe sifting through those ideas and how you come up with, the final product that we see on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, everything makes it, every idea makes it to production. I think there's always variations of ideas that don't necessarily make it to prime time, but when you got Ryan Reynolds in front of a screen, you're going to want to use it. I mean, I'm not really I'm not so privileged as a marketer where I can be like, yeah, we don't need that Ryan asset. I've got some better idea over here.
Well, the one without him works better though.
Well, yeah, true.
So one thing I do want to ask about, speaking of Ryan Reynolds and one of your campaigns, ahead of the upfront, you had these really great ads. It was like a tranquil setting, then you had Ryan Reynolds voiceover talking about the hardest working software, but also like the dangers of bears. So first of all, why are bears the #1 threat to marketers?
Got it. I think for obvious reasons.
Right. Sure. Well, can you tell us where that campaign comes from?
With the upfronts, our sort of observation Mountain's in this interesting place with regards to television advertising because we're all in on the connected TV streaming side of like TV advertising. I actually just learned last week that Mountain's now the 7th largest buyer of TV in the country.
Wow.
So it's scaled like crazy. But like we kind of observe like the whole traditional like upfronts process. And it's not our place to antagonize it in any sort of way. We understand why it exists and the value that people get out of it. But we also do think though that people, are taking it a little bit too seriously. I think there's some segment of advertisers who kind of grew up with the upfronts and rely on it an awful lot in a traditional way, but like the viewership landscape has completely changed.
Right.
And we were kind of poking fun at everyone should just kind of turn the temperature down a little bit. We know this is a very serious sort of thing that people do, but we could kind of think about this a little bit differently, and that's been the really fascinating kind of trend that's been going on. I suspect everybody here streams television, so it's kind of personal for everybody. But as people kind of continue to make that migration over to streaming TV, things like the upfronts are going to evolve. They already kind of have evolved, and they're going to continue to evolve.
Well, then let's talk about that changing TV landscape. I mean, as someone who's looking at that, what do you think is the biggest innovation out of Mountain that helps sort of marketers weather the storm?
I think probably two things come to my mind. The first is performance marketing, which, if you're a traditional advertising person who does a lot of brand advertising and you've done traditional linear TV advertising as well, this may not be as intuitive, but for those of you who've done or have been close to performance marketing, like paid social, paid search, the big thing that was important for Mountain was to make TV, again, feel indistinguishable from really efficient performance marketing. And to do so, it needed to look and feel like paid social advertising, for example. It's always like the feedback that I get from peers who use a platform like Mountain where it's like, oh, like experientially it was the same thing in terms of choosing the audiences and uploading the creative and going live with the campaign. And so the big thing for Mountain was to just kind of make TV a performance marketing channel. An interesting statistic to give you a sense of who uses Mountain is about 3/4 of all of Mountain's customers have never advertised on TV before. TV was not something that was an opportunity for a lot of these like booming e-commerce brands, for example. So they never would have gone to do a traditional linear buy. They may not even necessarily have an agency to do so. But once a solution came around that again looked and felt and smelt like all of the other performance marketing channels that they use, same terminology, same conversion tracking, all of that, pixels on site, then it really sort of welcomed them in. And so making TV a successful performance marketing channel, I think was big. And I think kind of looking forward, the thing that we're currently working on, it's pretty imminent, is just rethinking audience targeting. Because like today, when someone's doing audience targeting, I mean, forget linear TV. Like linear TV audience targeting, my goodness, it's so manual.
Right.
But linear TV, audience targeting, even in a digital realm, it's still quite manual in terms of you have a hunch in terms of who your target prospect is. You're given tens of thousands of audience segments to choose from, and you're using your intuition to identify what high intent looks like to you. In the case of Mountain, we're a technology company, and we have a device graph of more than half of the households in the United States are in the Mountain device graph. And so what we're now starting to kind of do is use that data to provide insights to anybody who's building a campaign to kind of give you a clue or a hint of like, this profile of who you're trying to target, these are the high intent audiences for you. And we're trying to play matchmaker. We're trying to match the consumer to a brand in the most ideal way possible. And taking it back to creative, the idea here is if we can figure out the audience piece for advertisers, which I think we can, really all that's left, the optimization that's left for an advertiser is creative. It's just coming up with the best possible creative that you can. And we're kind of a good case study in that too, because we kind of turn out so much creative. We could spend a lot of time just thinking about really innovative, like creative ideas. We have tons of advertisers on the platform that do the same thing. And so it kind of frees people up to just be creative.
I would love to talk a little bit more about audience targeting too, because I mean, look, linear this year dropped below 50% for the first time.
Who's still watching it? Who's still watching linear?
I have YouTube TV. So.
Yeah, same.
but really, like, there's more fast channels. The fragmentation is at an all-time high, maybe. It's probably going to increase even more. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of that targeting and how you work with advertisers too?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the trend in viewership, fundamentally with like programmatic advertising, the real opportunity is in the growth of the channel fundamentally. So for an advertiser like myself who's advertising programmatically on television, really doesn't matter to me what people are watching on TV. It just matters that people are streaming TV rather than watching it on linear. And that's unavoidable. That movement has been seismic. It's been happening for some time now. And so to that end, the audiences are certainly on TV. From an audience targeting standpoint, again, if you look at the linear TV alternative, the challenge there, as I think everyone here is kind of familiar with, is it's as much as you don't want to admit it, it's a guessing game of like, where can I find the most overlap with my target audience with a TV and a network on linear television? And you just cross your fingers that I really think that I'm selling beef jerky. I really think they're watching pro wrestling. And so you like advertise accordingly. And and it kind of works for people.
Sure, who doesn't love beef jerky?
Yeah, but then you have people like myself, which full disclosure, I watch Real Housewives. And I got my wife into it, which is unusual. But I like stereotypically masculine things, but I watch Real Housewives. And so I'm kind of like, I'm dodgy when it comes to linear TV ads targeting me. This is all a moot point in the case of programmatic TV in that you're just targeting the user wherever they are. So as long as you're consuming ad-supported streaming TV, you can be targeted differently based off of whatever your sort of interests are. This is all targeted on a household level. So it takes that guesswork out of it. And that's why it's just inherently more effective to kind of advertise streaming TV versus linear TV.
By the way, I got my wife into The Bachelor.
Great, so look, this is just
quality content.
Therapeutic.
You can't argue with that. But I mean, speaking of, you said it doesn't really matter the programming, but there is a lot more unscripted nowadays, right? So can you talk a little bit about what are the strategies, what are the tactics around when there is less scripted programming, it is more unscripted, reality driven?
So we launched something called Mountain Research last year, and I encourage everyone to kind of check it out. And it's kind of like a research arm of Mountain. We're sitting on so much TV consumption data, and we analyze a ton of it too. And some of the stuff that we kind of learned is, it's interesting. A lot of networks kind of fall back on reality TV when there's constraints like there are currently. It could be more cost efficient for them to kind of lean on it as well. But like statistically, people still prefer to watch like rerun TV over new reality TV. And there's been a lot of studies that kind of like show that. Going back to the point about programmatic advertising, it really doesn't matter if you're advertising programmatically where the decisions are being made from a network standpoint in terms of what the content is. As long as there's viewership on streaming TV, doesn't matter if they're streaming reality TV or scripted TV or if they're watching a rerun versus some sort of new programming. In all instances, in the case of streaming TV advertising, the ad will find its target audience regardless of what the person is actually consuming. And so in our world, it's just not even a really big consideration, fortunately.
That is interesting too. And I mean, you mentioned people are migrating towards reruns.
Yeah.
Suits had a big moment, right? It's like, does that, are you seeing any innovation when it comes to reaching audiences when it is these different programs that aren't always new?
I think this kind of comes back to the creative piece. When advertisers don't need to spend as much time and resources on the technical execution of running ads, it just frees up a lot of time and resources for just great creative. And so that's a great example of like seizing a moment, knowing that there's been a migration of people watching a certain type of program, being able to create some sort of creative that seizes upon that moment. We've certainly seen that to a lot of success. And so, yeah, you know, it's really kind of creative is the X factor here. And at Mountain, we're just trying to solve every other problem other than, and we actually have solutions for creative too, but that's a whole other conversation. We're trying to solve every other problem to just free marketers up to just worry about creative. The thing on that is the creative needs to be refreshed frequently. And so I see some brands on linear TV running creative that I'd seen like a year or two ago. In the case of CTV, the frequency can be a little bit higher. Also, since you're more nimble and you can have these like topical ads, you could kind of turn over this creative more frequently, in which case, you know, you really need the extra time and resources to just produce more creative.
Oh, very cool. And I mean, you're talking about taking away the worry from marketers, right? Mm-hmm. So what are the things that you worry about? What are the strategies that you're working on now in order to take that worry away from advertisers?
Yeah, I think attribution's been a big one for us in the past few years, and that's like in a great place. It's depending on where the marketer is coming from. If the marketer is coming from the world of linear TV advertising, the attribution just looks like black magic to them, that like these sorts of things can be tracked. But you know, when you put a pixel on a website and you maintain like a really large device graph, there's a lot of interesting things that you could kind of collect. And so being able to report back to advertisers site visits, site conversions, incrementality reporting, pushing it into a tool like Google Analytics, letting them use their sort of data measurement partners and all of that. This is all stuff that's like very familiar to people who do regular like kind of digital performance marketing. But to people who are coming from the world of linear, this is all quite new to them. And so we've kind of agonized a lot over attribution lately. And also deferred attribution too. You know, all marketers these days are sophisticated. They're running on a variety of channels. And so one of the great features of like Mountain's attribution is deferred attribution, where it's like, we may have served this household an ad, but if they came in by way of a Facebook ad, we're going to defer that credit to Facebook because some other ad channel kind of did the work to bring the user to the website. And so attribution, I think, has been huge. That's also been like a prerequisite for performance marketers to want to advertise on TV. A lot of them never advertise on TV, not just because of the constraints that we talked about before, but also just because the capabilities weren't there to like truly understand their return on investment.
Now we're almost out of time. We have about a minute left, but I would love to hear, there is going to be more disruption in programming into next year too. Yeah. What are sort of the silver linings you see for marketers? What are the things you're excited about for 2024? A conversation I overheard that it could be interesting for marketers that have a lot of resources is we're in the middle of like a SAG strike right now. That's not applicable to advertising. So one thing that I've been hearing people talk about is that
you know, if you're the type of brand that relies on like some sort of like celebrity endorsement and of some sort, that's not violating any sort of like SAG aspect of like the strike that's going on. And so for those brands, you could still get creative and kind of involve some sort of endorsement and do something that's pretty timely. I think that's probably the most interesting kind of insight I've learned recently.
Okay, well, very cool. Everyone, please, a round of applause
so
for
much.
Ali. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.